Who buys life insurance? What is the value prop and why? Very, very good question, because the problem with life insurance is everyone should have some life insurance. The value prop, the easiest question you can ask someone, very, very simple, is what will happen if you unexpectedly passed away tomorrow? What happens to your debt? What happens to your home? What happens if you had medical bills? What happens to those things? Oh, I'm not worried about that. Well, you should be, because what happens to them? We're not talking about if it's going to happen. We're talking about when it happens. I ask people this question all the time. What's your financial situation look like? If tomorrow you just got erased from this entire world, everything stops, what happens to your family, your mom, your sister, your wife, your husband, whatever? What happens? And some people are going to shy away from that question because it is very direct, it's very pointed. But it's something that you have to get the person thinking about, because life insurance is bought. People buy it, period. You really don't convince someone to purchase it. They either understand it and believe it, or they don't, and it's not going to be worth wasting your time because the policy won't stick. If someone gives you a ton of resistance, like, oh, I don't believe in that, let them not believe in that. Their family will believe in that when they pass away, but that's not your problem. It's kind of like Baywatch. You're not here to save them all. Save the people that want to be helped. But that's one of the big questions I ask people is, what does it look like if everything goes wrong tomorrow and you pass away? What happens to your family? And if you're sitting there, ask their spouse, their significant other, who makes all the money? Oh, the wife, the husband, whoever, doesn't matter who it is. What happens if tomorrow they get in a car accident and are gone and you don't make that income anymore? Do you keep this house? Does Sally Sue go to private school? Does the dog get its hair cut? Do you still go to the doctor? What happens? Can you still keep your nice car? That's a really good question, and that's the only way you can turn the sale around, because now someone else's family member is there to say, holy shit, Jim Bob, if you die tomorrow, I can't afford this house. Your family's going to be living in an apartment, or they're going to be kicked to the curb because they can't live here anymore. That is the only way you can turn it around. And if they both tell you, look dead in your eye, and they say, we don't believe in life insurance, we'll handle that when it comes, it's such a low percentage, say, okay, it is a low percentage. That's why it's cheap when you're young, because it's a low percentage. But every single person went to school with somebody that's no longer with us. Everybody knows someone or seen it on the news that died unexpectedly. You don't want to leave your family exposed to that. So even a little policy, even if it's just to cover your mortgage for 6 months, is better than nothing. Couldn't we agree on that? I'm not saying you need a $500,000 policy to cover your income for 10 years. I'm saying you need a $25,000 policy to cover your income and your funeral. That's what I'm talking about. $10,000 to cover your income for a little while, depending on how much you make, that might only be a month. And then $15,000 to cover your funeral expense. You don't want to be the person setting up a GoFundMe or having to call your mom and dad or friends and family because something unfortunate happened and you don't have the money to cover a funeral. You don't want to be those people. I literally say that to people exactly like that. Look them dead in their eye and say that, because that is a reality that some of these people are going to face. I have literally, being in this industry now for more than a year, I have had clients that I have went out to their home, I have sold them Medicare, I have offered them final expense life insurance, and they said they'll never need that. They'll never need that. They're 70. The Grim Reaper is in the driveway. I'm like, okay, no worries. If you guys don't think you'll need it, I really recommend it. I go through my spiel. What happens when your partner dies, Mr. Jones, who's on Social Security? You guys both make $1,200. That's, $2,400 a month. That shit's getting cut in half. Can you still live in this home? Oh, we'll be fine. We've got savings. How much do you have saved? Like $3,000. I'm like, well, that's definitely not enough for shit. Holy hell. Anyway, my point there was, I have had folks that I have sold Medicare, and then a year later, I get the notice they are deceased. And then when I call and to check in on them and to send my condolences, They are in a panic because they can't pay their mortgage anymore. Hey Nick, do you know about Section 8 housing? How do I apply for that? Well, you're not going to get Section 8 housing in like a week, Barbara. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And that's literally, I've had to have that conversation that I am not an expert on getting you Section 8 housing because I told you to get life insurance and you said it's not necessary. They're also asking me how to set up a Kickstarter and a GoFundMe, because, their husband's funeral is going to be $15,000 when, they thought it was going to be $6,000 because when they priced it in the 90s, it was $6,000. That's the kind of thing. And you don't have examples like that. Like I always have a thing on my iPad. I literally bring up the figures. I'll say, look, in 95, it cost this much, 2005, 2015. What do you think it's going to be in 2025? And then on top of that, I show them articles like of people that have been deceased. I literally bring up a Kickstarter page and I'm like, do you want this to be you? Kickstart for, Mr. John's funeral because he was a neighborhood hero and everybody liked him, but he didn't have a pot to piss in. And say it to them. If you offend them or upset them, at the end of the day, comes back to that moral and ethics. If I don't make them feel something or buy the product, that's my fault because this situation is going to happen. Death is coming, particularly if you're 70 or 80. You don't have much time. So if I can't help you right then and there, I'm moving on to the next person. You're still going to have this issue. So always keep that in your mind. And if they say, hey, Nick, I don't care, I don't want it, then I say, you know what? Please sign this paper right here that says I went over this with you because I don't want your son, your brother, your mother, your neighbor, anybody to ever say, I didn't try to help you with this because that day is coming and I want to have a clear conscience. Is that okay? And I've had people literally pick that pen up, look at me and go, how much is it? And then they buy it. And then if something happens, they're protected. Their family is in better shape. I helped them. But you got to make it real in their mind. So always, always, always remember that. People only buy things that they see value in. So anybody will buy life insurance. Anybody at all. If they are giving you a lot of heavy resistance, don't worry about it. Just literally do what I said. Say those lines. Say it that way. Show them the picture of what happens and then make them sign a little document. It could be written. Nick showed Johnny life insurance and he declined. Johnny's signature and date, thanks. People don't want to, see, they're okay with saying, I don't want it until it's time to literally write it down. Like I said no. You know what I mean? It sets it off. So anybody can be an insurance client and can purchase it. You just have to give them that visual and go through those steps to say what will happen. Now, obviously, a final expense client, 99% of the time is going to be an older person. And older people are much more aware of death than a younger person. So like if you're in your 20s and you say to them, oh yeah, it's going to cost you $30 a month or $50 a month, that's a much harder sell than someone who's 65, 75 saying, hey, it's going to be 100 to 150 a month. It's something, after you set the scene, this is the best we can do at your age because time is running out. So always remember that. What's the value prop? The value prop is insurance is an act of love for the people in your life who are left behind. Period. If you love your wife, your husband, your children, your friends, your neighbors, whoever it is, doesn't matter. You love that person. You don't want them to be burdened when you pass away. This is how you handle that. If they don't get that value prop or they just say, screw it, bury me in the yard, I look at them and say, well, that's really foolish. I hear what you're saying. They're not going to bury you in the yard. They're either going to cremate you or they're going to bury you in a cemetery. We don't live in, I don't know. I don't even know where the hell they bury people in people's yards anymore. We don't live anywhere like that. It doesn't happen. I live in a major city in the United States. That's not going to happen. The coroner's going to come out. They're going to pronounce you dead and they're going to have to move the body. It's a whole thing. That's not a realistic thing. I literally tell people that sounds really great to say, but that's the dumbest thing you've said to me so far. It's not going to happen that way. Let's talk about real things. What is your family going to do? If they don't see that serious tone that I'm taking with them, I just get up and leave because it's not worth wasting your time. So keep that in the back of your mind. By the way, subscribe below. If you have more comments, questions, follow up below in the comments. I'll answer them. Always remember, life insurance is an act of love. You're helping people protect their family and people they leave behind. Subscribe.